Before anything happens today, your mind may already be somewhere else. It will replay yesterday. It will rehearse tomorrow. It will imagine conversations that have not happened, arguments that may never happen, and failures that do not even exist. Before your feet touch the floor, your thoughts are already trying to outrun reality. And by the time the day begins, you feel strangely tired. Not because you have worked, not because anything has gone wrong, because you have been carrying things that have not happened yet. An unanswered message, a future that refuses to explain itself, a mistake you wish you could erase, someone else's opinion of you. One by one they settle onto your shoulders until eventually the weight feels so familiar that you stop questioning whether it was ever yours to carry. We tell ourselves that worrying is responsible, that overthinking is preparation, that if we examine every possibility, rehearse every conversation, and predict every disaster, we will somehow be protected from disappointment, as if anxiety could negotiate with the future, as if enough sleepless nights could convince tomorrow to be kinder. But think about your own life. How many times has worrying changed what was going to happen? How many hours have you spent replaying moments that never changed? How many nights have you sacrificed trying to control something that had already moved beyond your reach? Perhaps uncertainty is not what exhausts us. Perhaps it is the belief that uncertainty is something we were supposed to eliminate. Nearly 2,000 years ago, a man who had every reason to believe life was unfair discovered something that would outlive an empire. Not because he found a way to control the world, but because he understood which part of it had never belonged to him. His name was Epictetus. He was born into slavery and later brought to Rome, where much of his external life was decided by someone else, where he went, what he did, how his time was used. He lived in the center of an empire obsessed with power. Rome conquered territory, commanded armies, accumulated wealth, and treated control as proof of freedom. But Epictetus noticed something strange. Many of the people who appeared most powerful were terrified of losing what they had. They feared losing status, money, approval, influence, and the favor of people above them. The chains looked different, but they were chains all the same. A man whose body belonged to someone else began to understand that there was still one part of him no master, emperor, or empire could fully own: his judgment, his intention, the way he chose to meet what happened. Years later, after gaining his freedom, Epictetus taught a simple distinction. Some things depend on us, and others do not. It sounds obvious, but most of us spend our lives confusing the two. We treat another person's opinion as though it belongs to us. We treat the future as though it can be managed through enough thought. We treat outcomes as though effort gives us ownership over them. And then we wonder why we are exhausted. Most people believe freedom begins when life finally gives them what they want: the promotion, the relationship, the recognition, the certainty. Epictetus believed the opposite. Freedom begins when your inner life no longer depends on receiving those things. That idea becomes uncomfortable the moment you bring it into ordinary life. Think about the last time you waited for a message that did not come. At first, it was nothing. You put your phone down. A few minutes later, you checked again, then again. Eventually, you noticed they had been online, and suddenly, silence was no longer silence. Your mind began writing a story. Maybe I said something wrong. Maybe they are upset. Maybe they are losing interest. The remarkable thing is that nothing has actually happened. There has been no rejection, no harsh word, no explanation, only an empty space. Yet silence has a way of becoming whatever fear needs it to be. Within minutes, you are no longer responding to reality. You are responding to a story your mind created because reality had not answered quickly enough. Epictetus would have recognized that moment immediately. The technology is different. The mind is the same. Or perhaps it's not a message. Perhaps it is a job interview. You prepare for weeks. You study the company. You practice your answers. You walk into the room and do everything you can to present the clearest, strongest version of yourself. Days later, an email arrives. They have chosen someone else. Just one sentence. And somehow it begins to mean more than it says. It becomes evidence that you are not capable, that you are falling behind, that your future has narrowed. You replay every answer, searching for the exact moment everything went wrong. But the interview belonged to you. Your preparation belonged to you. Your effort belonged to you. The decision never did. This is where so much suffering begins. We confuse influence with control. They are not the same thing. You can prepare, you can practice, you can speak honestly, work carefully, love deeply, and give your best. But no amount of effort gives you ownership over the final result. Other people still choose. Circumstances still change. Chance still enters the room. The problem is not that results matter, they do. The problem begins when we use an outcome we could never guarantee to measure the value of everything we did. Epictetus was not telling people to become indifferent. He was asking them to become accurate. There is a difference between saying, "I cannot control this," and saying, "Nothing can be done." The first may be true. The second often is not. You cannot control whether someone respects you. You can control whether you behave in a way you respect. You cannot control whether your work succeeds. You can control whether it is done carelessly or with attention. You cannot control how a difficult conversation ends. You can control whether you enter it honestly. This is not passivity. It is refusing to waste action on what action cannot reach. Imagine a sailor in the middle of the ocean. He studies the weather. He understands the wind. He maintains his ship and adjusts the sails. All of that matters. But no sailor has ever controlled the sea. To demand calm water before moving forward would not be caution. It would be paralysis. The wise sailor does not waste himself cursing the storm for existing. He asks, what can still be done now that it has arrived? Life asks the same thing of us. The philosophy becomes harder when something painful has already happened. A relationship ends, a plan collapses, someone betrays you, an opportunity disappears. The pain is real. Stoicism does not ask you to pretend otherwise, but after the event comes something else, the story placed on top of it. This should not have happened. They should have understood. I should have known. My life should be different by now. The word should can contain an entire imaginary world. A world where people behave according to our expectations, timing follows our plans, effort guarantees reward, and loss arrives only when we are prepared. But reality has never signed that agreement. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean injustice should be tolerated or that harmful circumstances should remain unchanged. It means beginning with what is true. This happened. This is where I am. What remains mine to do? Surrender says nothing can be done. Acceptance removes the argument with the facts so that action can begin. That is more demanding than optimism. Optimism tells you things may improve. Epictetus asks how you will behave if they do not. Will another person's dishonesty make you dishonest? Will rejection make you cruel? Will uncertainty make you careless? Will criticism decide what you believe about yourself? These are not questions about becoming emotionless. Grief, fear, anger, and disappointment do not disappear because they are inconvenient. The question is whether they become authorities. An emotion can speak without being given command. You can feel anger without allowing anger to choose your words. You can feel fear without treating fear as proof that you should retreat. You can experience rejection without turning it into a final judgment about your worth. The event happens. The emotion follows. Then comes the part that still belongs to you. your judgment, your response, your next action. When anxiety takes hold, separate three things. What has actually happened? What am I adding through prediction or interpretation? What action is still available to me? A message has not been answered. That is what happened. They no longer care about me as a story. Waiting, asking directly, sending another message, or returning your attention to your own life, those are actions. This distinction will not always make you feel better. It will make you see more clearly, and clarity matters because much of what disturbs us becomes powerful before it has ever been examined. We react to possibility as though it were fact. We react to opinion as though it were a verdict. We react to outcomes as though they were fully ours to produce. Epictetus asks us to draw the boundary again, not between what matters and what does not, between what belongs to our agency and what never did. Tomorrow, something will refuse to follow your plan. Someone may misunderstand you. An answer may arrive later than you hoped. A decision may be made without your consent. Life will continue doing what it has always done, changing without asking permission. The question is not whether you can prevent that. You cannot. The question is how much authority you will give it once it happens. Perhaps that is all philosophy was ever meant to do. Not give us a different world. Give us different eyes with which to see it. The heaviest burdens are often the ones you were never meant to carry. The future, other people's judgments, the outcome, the weather. Let them remain where they belong. Your next choice is enough.